Blog Talk Radio.
Moment, chatting with Andrea, bringing you conversations about some of the most interesting topics and with some of the most interesting and inspiring people on the planet. Join me, the Northern Belle, every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Call in to listen, 347-857-4339, or listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/faithinme. We'd love to have you on as a guest, so please email us your interest at request@faithinmeministries.org. That's REQUESTS, the @FAITHINMEMINISTRIES.org. Moment, chatting with Andrea. Tune in.
Hey, Trina, is that you?
Amy? Girl, how have you been?
I've been doing good, but look at you. You look great.
Thanks, girl. I've been rapping. I lost about 12 inches.
Rapping? You mean a 1-2? A 1-2?
No, girl. Have you heard of the Ultimate Body Applicator by It Works?
Oh, that kind of rap. Does it really work?
Yes, it does. My girl from Crazy Cool Raps gave me a trial rap 3 weeks ago. I've been rapping ever since.
Crazy Cool Rap?
Yes, girl, Crazy Cool Raps. They have all kinds of products that help with weight loss, firming and toning, stress relief, energy boost. They got it all. It's my one-stop shop.
Do you think you could hook me up with some of that? I need to get fine and fit for the summer.
Oh, no, my friend. You got to call for yourself. Listen, I'll give you the information. It's Crazy Cool Raps. You can call 678-341-0935 or email crazycoolraps@gmail.com. That's crazy, Krazy, cool, KOOL, raps, WRAPS, @gmail.com. Check out the website, www.crazycoolraps.com. It works.
Well, good evening, and good evening again. Welcome to Moments Chatting with Andrea. I'm your host, Andrea, and I'm here today, and I'm excited because it's the premiere. This is the first day of Moments. And I am excited because this is something new. First time, the first day, the first broadcast. It's exciting. I'm excited to welcome you all here today. Thank you. I'm waiting on technical people to get technical for me. I'm just excited that you all are here today to share in with the broadcast premiere. Today we're talking about soul ties. Soul ties. And it's a very interesting topic. A couple of my friends and I, we've been talking about this for a while now, and how there's some people who are caught up in soul ties, and they don't realize sometimes that they're caught up. Well, we want to talk about it today. If we have time later on the show, I would love to open it up and hear your thoughts about soul ties, if you've had an experience with soul ties, some ideas you have about getting rid of soul ties, or if you have questions about them. So if you do, I believe there's an option for you to kind of like raise your hand to ask questions or to leave a comment or something like that. Please do it. We definitely want to interact on this show. And I thank you all for calling in for the broadcast. Let's get right to it. The first thing I want to talk about is, what is a soul tie? What is it? We hear it all the time, usually in negative connotation, but do we really know what a soul tie is? Well, Webster defines a soul tie as of souls that are tied together by the spirit. Soul ties are usually sexual. They're not always. However, that's where we think about the negative. Before we go further, I do want to say that soul ties are not all bad. There are some godly soul ties. As a matter of fact, if you were to go to Genesis 2:24, it says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Those are two souls that are tied together. And before we go further, because you know how we do, we keep it real and we tell the truth, cleave, when you look it up in the dictionary, there's different definitions, but what it means in this context is to pierce or penetrate. So what are you saying? What I'm saying is a man will leave his father and mother and shall penetrate or pierce his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Well, what are we talking about? To pierce or to penetrate between a man and a woman, that's physical, that's intimate, that's sexual. So the first thing that we realize and recognize is that intimacy, sexual intercourse, lovemaking, whatever title you want to give it, is supposed to be for a husband and a wife. What's funny is I just read you Genesis 2:24, right? The same scripture can be found in Ephesians 5:31 and Mark 10:7. Do you think God is really trying to emphasize that this is between a husband and a wife? If you look back in Bible times, they didn't have wedding ceremonies like we do today. You know, there's no preacher man and $20,000 dresses and gowns and the bridesmaids, you know, some of those horrendous gowns they make you wear. The marriage act simply was a man and woman coming together before God and being sexual with one another and staying together. Now, here we are in 2013, and there's a lot of sex going on, but a lot of it's not happening between man and wife. It's a lot of outside sources. And here lies in the problem, because if sex was meant for husband and wife, and we're doing it, and we're not together forever, because there's some people who have one-night stands, there are people who are together for a week or 2 or 3 months or a couple of years. You know, divorce does happen, separation happens, you know, different things, death happens. So something that was intimate and meant for a husband and wife is now all over the place. If soul ties are souls that are tied together by the Spirit, and people are having sex here, there, and everywhere, guess what? Anything that you, or let me not say anything, let me not take it there, anyone you have sex with, your soul becomes tied to, or your soul becomes married to. So if you're sleeping with A, B, and C, your soul is tied to A, B, and C. But here's the crazier thing, because if A, B, and C are sleeping with someone else, they're tied to who they're sleeping with. And since they're tied to who they're sleeping with, and you're tied to them, guess what? You're tied to the people they're sleeping with as well. Remember when AIDS first became known on the scene, and they really were doing a lot of PSAs about it, and they were like, if you sleep with this one, you're sleeping with everyone they slept with. Well, it's the same principle. But instead of the physical disease, you have a soul disease now. You have something that you're carrying around with you. And that's not a great thing. That's not a good thing. Let's talk a little bit about it. We know that there are some godly soul ties, and those are good. We don't want to get rid of those, but tonight we're talking about those negative ones, those bad ones. You know, you have the sexual soul ties, which we talked about. They're physical or sexual, intimate. There's also some emotional soul ties out there where there's like a dependency on someone, words capture you, or it might be the memories that you have of this person. But they're soul ties nevertheless. And you have to be careful with soul ties because they are and can be controlling spirits, seducing spirits, and distracting spirits. Controlling spirits. Once they get you where they want you, then they begin to manipulate you. They get to plot out what it is that they want you to do for them. It's kind of like a seeking and a selfish spirit that's over them, and they bring it over you. Now you can't do what you want to do. You have to kowtow to them, do what they want you to do. It's almost like you're in bondage. You're enslaved to their spirit, to their power, to their authority. So now you find yourself wanting to go to the game with your friends, but she says if you go there, you'll be sleeping on the couch. Well, you're not supposed to be sleeping at her house anyway because you're not married. But you find yourself not going to the game because you don't want to lose this connection. Now, let's talk about the seducing spirit. The seducing spirit is one that, you heard about the Jezebel spirit, you heard about the Delilah spirit, that spirit that uses sex as a weapon. It tells you what to do in a seductive manner. It seduces you. Whether it's the fragrance, whether it's the attire, whether it's the speech, whether it's the movement, however it can entice you. And I know I'm talking about it. It's because even though women and men have the seducing spirit, remember, it's the spirit within them. That's why I'm calling it an it. And trust and believe, a man can have a seducing spirit just as well as a woman can have a seducing spirit. And they do things, and they know what they're doing. They know what to say, how to say it, how to look at you. Women know how to bat those eyes. Men know how to show those 32 in order to get you into a situation where you get caught up. And then you get caught up. It's hard to get out of that situation. What's really interesting about this is when you're messing with that seducing spirit, you don't even recognize it. You don't even see it. Sometimes you think can I just be real with you? You think your junk is so good that they just wide open for you. You think that it's all about you. And you don't realize that these spirits are coming after you because it's something that they want from you. Yeah, it might be how you lay it down, but more likely it's the power that you possess. It's the gifts that you have. It's the talent. It's the skill set. It's the position. You have to be careful of those spirits. Now let's talk about the distracting spirit. The distracting spirit is the one that gets you so caught up and so confused and so confuzzled. One of my good friends, Danny, made up that word. That's between confusion and puzzled. Confuzzled, that you don't know whether you're going or you're coming. Because when you have that paper to write, they're calling you saying, I miss you, can I come over? Or when you have that assignment that's due, they're saying, oh, you could do it later. Come out with me. They're keeping you off what you're supposed to be doing. And even though we're talking about people and we're talking about the spirits, please know that distractions are used in every concept that you can imagine. Even having access to something sometimes is a spirit of distraction. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. If it's going to cause you to lose your focus or to get off task or to get off track. So we've talked about the controlling spirit. We've talked about the seducing spirit. We talked about the distracting spirits. And don't feel bad if you've ever found yourself caught up in any of these, because many people have. They don't know it at times, and sometimes they realize it after the fact, or they don't know what to call it. They just know, I was caught up in this honey, and all I could do was think about her, and she must be the one. No. If she or he is not helping you get to the places that you need to get to, it may not be love. Yeah, we want to call it lust. However, it's deeper than lust. As you saw in what we're talking about, soul ties can get you even if there's no sex involved. Words, memories, good times, dependence. We're going to talk deeper into how they're introduced. The first thing we talk about is sexual and intimate relationships. You should not be sleeping with anyone who is not your spouse. You should be sleeping, women, with your husband, men with your wives, your own wives, your own husband. You should not be sleeping with Bobo's husband or wife or Jill's husband. You should be sleeping with your own mate, your own husband, your own wife. That's number one. Number two, if you're not married, you shouldn't be having sex. And this is a good time to say next week, my special guest will be Kimberly Rice. We will be talking about abstinence, the absence of sexual connection unless you're married. That's a plug for her. We'll be talking more about it a little later. But you should not be sleeping with someone if you're not married to them. Okay, I had to pause for a minute so that can marinate. You should not be sleeping with anyone if you're not married to them. Now, I'm going to go here because this is an adult show. We picked an adult time to talk. I hope, you set yourselves up before the great big football game that's about to go. I hope you fed the kids. I hope they're off doing their thing so that you can have time to listen to me because we're going to get real. Sex is not just the penetration of the man's piece with the woman's piece. I'm going to say it like that, even though I really wanted to get into it. I'm just going to keep it right there. Sex is also anything that leads to a release or close to a release, a fulfillment. So, okay, let's just go there. Okay, I'm just going to go there. Anal, mouth, hand, toy, that's all sex. I said it. Let me tell you again. Mouth, anal, hand, toys. And toys, there is a whole widespread kind of, so many I can't even name, so we're just going to generalize them and call them toys. That's all a part of sex. Even if you're by yourself, that's still sex. I said it, masturbation is sex. And thereby, you're not supposed to be doing it. You're not married, leave it all alone. Here's what happens when you're in those intimate relationships. Remember what it said in the scripture. The man shall leave his father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. That flesh is a tie. But between a husband and a wife, it's a good tie. It's supposed to be. You're supposed to be one. But if you're having sexual relations with Donnie, Danny, and Dooney, you're tied to each one of them. And because you're tied to each one of them, their feelings and your feelings are what? One. So now you're sharing an intimate relationship with Donnie. You're sharing an intimate relationship with Danny. You're sharing an intimate relationship with Dooney. And you've left yourself wide open to their feelings, their spirit, what's going on with them. So now you're carrying a weight on you that doesn't belong to you because you're supposed to not even be connected to them. But now you are. So now you find yourself caught up. And here's something that's very interesting that I have found that happens in relationships or one-night stands, whatever you want to call them, however you do them. You take on the personality traits sometimes of the person you're connected with. I think I talked about this on a different show a while ago. There's a movie called Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts. I love it. In this movie, she doesn't want to be tied down. She doesn't want to get married, but she likes being in a relationship. And every time she's in a relationship, whatever the man likes, she likes. So if he likes sunny side up, she likes sunny side up. They go to get married, she runs, they break up. She's with the next man. If he likes Eggs Benedict, she likes Eggs Benedict. They go to the chapel to get married, she runs, they break up. The next man comes in, if he likes scrambled, she likes scrambled eggs. And it gets to the point towards the end of the movie where she meets this reporter. Well, he's there during the movie, but they become interested in each other. And he says, before you break my heart, before you do anything that will cause me to never like you again, sit down. And in front of her, he presented a table. And there was every kind of egg you can imagine, from hard-boiled to soft-boiled to scrambled to eggs Benedict to omelets to everything. And he said, I want you to sit down, and I want you to eat these eggs and decide which egg is the egg that you love the most. You decide what you want. And here's the thing with soul ties. They control us. You find yourself becoming different and in a different place than when you began this relationship you weren't even supposed to be in. You find yourself craving and wanting things you've never craved or wanted. Now, let me tell you something that's really sad about it. You could break up with these people and 5 years later still long for them. Oh, they were the best I've ever had. They were so sweet and so kind. And you know that's a lie. He was a knucklehead that knocked you upside your knucklehead. He was someone who talked down to you every day, but because of that soul tie, you're desiring for that connection again. One of my dearest friends and I had a conversation last year, the year before, I can't even remember when it was, when we were talking about inappropriate relationships that we had found ourselves in the past. And we were thinking that these men truly, truly wanted us because we were just the stuffing. We were all that and then some. But when God revealed it to us, it wasn't about us. It was about the anointing that we carried, about what he placed inside of us, because they didn't have it. However, when we found ourselves in these inappropriate relationships, all of a sudden, our anointing was on them. See, there's a transference. That's what I'm talking about. There's a transference in soul ties. So you know all those good things that make you you? All of a sudden, your partner has them. And by the same token, all those bad things that make him him, you find yourself getting them. It's a transference of spirits, of souls. And here you are on course to be doing one thing, and now you find yourself not even wanting to do it. And you think, oh, you know, God really didn't want me to do that, or I wasn't really supposed to be doing that. No, you caught up in a soul tie, boo-boo. And please be aware that now we're talking about sexual, intimate relationships, but there's also emotional manipulation that can cause soul ties. You know those people that cling on to you and hold on to you, and they use emotional, let's call it blackmail. You know, you used to love me. You said you would always love me. You said you would never leave me. You said you'd be here forever for me. Well, because you said those things, I'm going to keep reminding you of it. So every time you try to move on into a new relationship, I'm there with you. I'm going to be by your side in your head and in your thoughts because you promised me forever. So there's no way you can love the new person you're with because you told me forever. They make you feel guilty. They make you feel bad because you no longer want to be with them. You want to move on and do your own thing or move on to a new relationship or move on to a new level, and they're still holding on, using that emotional blackmail. Then you also have shared life experiences that cause soul ties. You know, I went through the things that you went through. Or I was there for you when you had that miscarriage. I was there when you were raped. I was there. Not only was I there, but I picked you up. I let you lay your head on my shoulder and cry. And now we're forever joined. And so when you're trying to move on and do your own thing, these memories keep playing like an 8-track. Oh, yeah, I took it back. Or like that record, remember how we used to have the record player and you would put the needle on the record and sometimes it would skip and it would just go over and over saying the same line over and over because there was a little scratch? Well, that's what they like to do. Those memories keep playing, and somehow our mind has it so that usually we only focus on the good things and we over-exaggerate those things. That's all a part of the soul tie. We talked about sexual, intimate relationships, emotional manipulation, shared life experience. What about personal tragedy? You don't want to leave them. You don't want to get away from a soul tie because they've gone through some major disaster. And they're using that major disaster to hold on to you. If you leave, I'll kill myself. If you leave, I don't know how I'll make it. I can't make it without you. You're my everything. The sun shines when you're around, but when you're not around, it's nothing but grayness and clouds and moon. I can't even see outside. I don't want to go on without you. There's also the loss of loved ones. They'll even use that in soul ties to hold you. You've lost a parent or a child or a cousin or a brother, and they're there to pick up the pieces. They're there to pray with you, and don't get it twisted. It's not Pray. They're there to hold your hand and dry your tears. They're serving the food. They're cooking the food. They're being the host or the hostess, welcoming people in. They're there to comfort you. You can call them at 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They're answering the phone. They're there listening to you cry. But they're really planning to put their hooks into you. We also have those soul ties that are introduced by flattery. Oh, you are so handsome. You're the finest thing since fine wine. You're so pretty, girl. You know those flattering lines. And I'm not saying you're ugly. I'm not saying you're not worth the compliment, but take them in context. See, the soul tie spirit, that controlling spirit, that seducing spirit, that distracting spirit, knows where they can get in. And sometimes we have egos and pride. And so they know how to fit themselves into that to say just what it is we need to hear. We had a bad day at work. Well, they're there talking about how bad our supervisor is. And our supervisor isn't bad. We just didn't do the work we were supposed to do. We were too busy BSing around. Yes, I said it. And we are in the wrong. But we have an ego. We don't want to be told that maybe if you focus more, you would have got done what needed to get done. No, we're going to help you blame it on somebody else. That's that spirit. It comes in and tells you that you're the best orator since Martin Luther King, that you can out-preach E. Dewey Smith. I mean, you know, that you can teach like nobody's teacher. You're just, when God made you, he broke the mold. They're flatterers. And they use those words to just, oh my gosh. And they know how to, I told you, blink those eyes, or the men know how to show those 32 to make us feel like we're just a cat's meow. Sexual, intimate relationships, emotional manipulation, shared life experience, personal tragedies, loss of loved ones, flattery, and consoling. When we are down, you've got to be so careful, because when we're down, people like to come in sometimes and make us feel much better. But that's not their pure motive. Thank you. Their pure motive is, and can we keep it real? They want to be in your life. They want to keep on holding on to what you have. They want to be promoted as you're promoted. They want to hold on to your suit tie and your jacket flaps and move up the ladder as you're moving up the ladder. They want position. There are different reasons why those spirits are there, but it's for selfish gain. And they'll do whatever they have to do to get it. Consoling you when you're down is another tactic. They're introduced through the, oh, I'm sorry you're not feeling good today. Is there anything I can do to make you feel better? And when they say that, they mean it. However I got to get you, I'll get you. So you're thinking it's innocent because, see, here's the trick. The majority of us have pure motives. Our pure motive is we are who we are, and we show who we are. And the problem is that we see people as being as honest as we are. And I'm not saying we don't lie or anything like that. What I mean is we say what we mean, and we mean what we say. We are who we present ourselves to be. We're not those people who put on masks and give you our best foot, and then in 3 months you see the real us. No, you see the real us from the onset. And we're expecting for people to show who they are to us as well. So they're very cunning, these spirits. And you have to be very careful. And the next tactic is loneliness. They reach out to those who are lonely, and we got to be very, very careful. Because when we're lonely, the things we invite into our lives are not good. Now, I'm not telling you that you won't have lonely moments. We all do. Even those people in relationships, that's the killer. You got to be careful. But there are those moments when we lose sight of what we're supposed to be doing, and we're so focused in the depression of loneliness that we will settle for anybody to just come in and take us out of that loneliness. And because we'll settle for just anybody shows up. Now, you know you would have never, ever talked to him. You would have never, ever given her the time of day, but you were lonely. And you thought, hey, it's better than doing nothing. Let me just go hang out with him or her for 30 minutes, 3 hours, and it turns into a lifetime of a soul tie. We've got to be careful in these emotions we have sometimes. Another one is sharing a negative emotion. And by that, you've been hurt, you've been betrayed, offended, you have some wounds that have not healed, emotional wounds, spiritual wounds. You have unforgiveness in your heart. Well, they use that. Just like we talked about a little bit earlier, they'll be on your side. Oh, I can't believe that pig did that. I can't believe that girl did that. And they become your cheerleaders, and they're slicing the person who hurt you. Instead of coming in and saying, you need to forgive that person, they use your unforgiveness to get into that spot they want to be in. Because, see, when we're hurt sometimes, when we feel betrayed sometimes, we're looking for that cheerleader to come in and say that we're not wrong in our feelings. We're justified to be angry. We're justified to be bitter. We're justified to be hurt. We're justified to not give forgiveness. And there comes that person who's like, hey, I'm there. You don't have to apologize. They should be apologizing to you. They were wrong. They come in wherever they can fit in. Financial crisis. You need help, and all of a sudden it's da-da-da, Captain Dollar to the rescue. They want to be able to make you dependent on them. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to help you, and not only am I going to help you, I'm going to see if there's some doors that can be open for you to get more money coming in on your own, or if I can help you do whatever it is that you're gifted to do, they come in and they say, hey, I got you. I got you. Don't ask anybody for help. I got you. Lean on me. I got you. I'll take care of it. I got you. Because what happens? They start separating you from other people. You become dependent on them, and because you're dependent on them, you give in to them. And that's a good lead into one of the last ones we'll talk about, being indispensable, being needed. those people who come in to help you, you can't do anything without them. They have control of everything. They know all the passwords. They got all the keys. They know how to break down this. They know how to upload that. They know how to move this. They know how to fold that. And they do it so well that there's no need for you to know anything. There's no need for you to do anything. They do it all for you. They cater to you. Why? Because if anything were to happen, you would have to say, hey, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I need your help. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't understand how to do it. And they got what they wanted because now what? You're dependent on them. This is why we talked about the emotional soul ties a little bit earlier. Dependence is key to their survival, one of the keys to their survival. Their words, we've seen that, the manipulation, and then the memories. So besides physically and sexually being tied, you can be tied in dependence, not independence, but you can be tied by being dependent on them. You can be tied by their words, by their manipulations, by their actions, and by the memories that you share. Now, we talked about soul ties. We talked about what they are. We looked at the Bible's explanation of a soul tie. We've looked at the kinds of soul ties. Now, there are more, but I'm just focusing on these because these seem to trap us. We talked about some of the ways they're formed through controlling spirits, seducing spirits, and distracting spirits. We talked about the tactics or how they're introduced. Well, in the few minutes that we have left, let's talk about how to defeat the soul ties. Now, this may not work for everybody, and you've got to know yourself, but here's some practical tips, some practical ideas, some things to do, because what I don't want you to do is to think just because you say you're done with somebody and I'm never going to call, I'm never going to meet up with, I'm never going to go out with this person, that it's all said and done. The end has been written on the story. Now, I'm sure there might be a couple of people who have had that situation happen. But for the majority of us, even though we say it's over, we'll never, ever, that phone call comes. Or that memory surfaces. Or we see them out on the street. And all of a sudden we yearn for what we used to have. We long for what we used to have. And we're like, I thought I was over them. Well, maybe this is God saying it's time for us to get back together. It ain't got nothing to do with God. That's the memory. They have put a handprint on your soul. They have put their foot in it. Remember how we used to talk about the good cooks of the South? They put their foot in it. Is that good? Well, they put their foot in your soul. And you're thinking they're the best thing since sliced pizza, and they're the worst thing since rotten eggs. Well, let's talk about some ways to get rid of these soul ties. Because before you move on into a new relationship, your old relationship has to be severed completely and forever. You cannot move on. What happens is just like you traveling, let's say you're going on a world trip, and you're going from state to state, and you have your luggage. Remember those old school pieces of luggage where you would go to one state or one country, and they would stamp it, and you'd have a picture on your luggage? Well, that's your soul. And this is what happens. You go from one relationship, stamp. Go to the next relationship, stamp. Go to the next relationship, stamp. But guess what? Those stamps symbolize the connection you still have to that other person. So you're not only going to the next relationship by yourself, you're bringing that old relationship with you. That's when we talk about having baggage. You're bringing baggage from your old to your new, so you never, ever get to appreciate or recognize the new because you're still concerned with the old. The new person never gets a chance to be who they really are in your life because you're bringing past hurt, past pain, past desire, past lust with you. That's why you could be with someone new and they could be nothing like the person you used to be with, but you're always comparing. John used to do it like this, but David does it like that. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about the way he may speak, or the way I'm making up names now, Tia might cook like this, but Janet used to cook like that. And those things harm relationships. They harm your day-to-day life. All right, we're talking about breaking these soul ties. Number one, you need to recognize that you are tied. You got to know, hey, I admit it, I'm whooped. Or like we used to say back in the 90s, I'm sprung. You need to know this is a soul tie. Again, you may not have had sex with this person. It may have happened emotionally. It may have happened spiritually. But there was this tie that God did not ordain, and you have it. You got to take the blinders off and say, yeah, this is a soul tie. This isn't good. Once you recognize that you're tied, you got to make up your mind to break off all ties. That means just like when you're doing the 12-step program, just like you're doing any program, you've got to say, this is it. I'm tired. I'm done. It's over. I'm not going to do this. And I mean this differently than what we talked about before, because you're going to take action. Before, those words were just words. Now we're going to do something to make this tie broken. Okay. So you have to put in your heart, I'm done. I'm ready to be released. Then you got to call out that spirit. You got to identify it. What is that soul tie? Man, we're tied because we had sex and it was just a ba-ba-zay, like they used to say back in Jersey back in the day. It just was all that and then some. Recognize it. Identify it. Oh, it's an emotional soul tie because every time I hear her cry, it just makes me want to just be there for her. You have to recognize what that tie is, identify it. Then you got to get to the root of it. Where did this start happening? How did this start happening? You need to go back and think about how it moved from one thing to a soul tie. Why? Because later on you'll see that if you don't know how you fell into the trap, you'll repeat it. So you need to not only know you're in a soul tie and be determined to break the soul tie and call it out, you got to get to the root. You got to get to the root of it so that it can be pulled out from the root. Just like a plant, if you don't pull it out, or a weed, if you don't pull it out from the root, it will continue to grow. So you've got to pull it out. Number 4, denounce it. I wish I could share with you. I have a very good friend who has this prayer book. And in the book, it talks about denouncing some spirit. This spirit needs to be denounced. It needs to be talked down to. It needs to be killed. Just like you have the weed spray that kills the weeds, your mouth and your actions need to tear down this soul tie. I won't carry this soul tie, whatever the soul tie is. I'm done with the soul tie. It's over. I'm done with it. I know I messed up when I did A, B, and C. I recognize it. I'm not going to set myself up. You got to make some statement that say, I'm done with it. But not only are the statements important, your actions have to be. Now, I know it may sound silly, but you may need to write a list of places at this point I just can't go. Situations I cannot be involved in. People I cannot be around. Because it's going to trigger memory. And when that memory is triggered, I'm going to start longing for so-and-so. I'm serious. I know it may sound silly, but this is your life. And soul ties have to be gone. You don't want to carry those things 20, 30 years. It happens. You see that person, your heart starts beating, and you want to be right where God released you from. No, you've got to be serious about this. What's the next step that's so important? Pray. Ask God to release you from that soul tie. You cannot do it by yourself. I don't care what people say, you need help. And be honest. God already knows what you're doing, so it doesn't even bother him that you're telling him, because he's already seen it. Lord, I need your help. Shaniqua got that stuff, and I just can't. Oh, Tony is just bow-legged and fine, and you got to tell it, I need help. Now, God may direct you to going into counseling. He may direct you into, when you go certain places, you've got to have certain people with you, the watchmen. We call them the watchmen. I go certain places, certain people got to go with me. If I know they're not going to be available, I just can't go. But God will make ways of escape. Yes, he will. Now, this is important. They are all important. But after you do all of this and your mind is made up, the soul tie is cut, you got to clean out your closet. Spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Spiritually, you got to set yourself on positive things now. Remember how they used to say back in the day, well, they still say it, an idle mind is the devil's workshop? Well, now you've got to, instead of longing for those moments with whomever, make yourself busy, but be fruitful. I'm not talking about running around in circles, but especially that distracting spirit, it gets you off track. So find out where you're supposed to be. This is why prayer is so important. Find out what your purpose is, what your calling is, what assignments do you have, what do you need to do to bring about the kingdom, what do you need to do to bring about your business, what do you need to do to bring out that book, those things, and focus on those. And not only that, make sure there are positive people around you that see the vision. They may not see it for themselves, but they believe enough in you to want to see you reach your goal. You'd be surprised once you start focusing on your goals and what you're supposed to be doing, how a lot of those spirits fall off. But when you're giving them attention and you're feeding into it and you're giving into it, you get further and further from where God wants you to be. That's spiritually. Emotionally, cut off that phone. You may have to not answer another call. You may not be able to answer your door. And you're sitting here laughing at me. You say, Andrea, I'm not a punk. No, I'm not saying you're a punk. But while you're breaking soul ties, that other person may be trying to get you back. They're realizing, there's a change. Something's going on. He's not calling. She's not calling. Let me double up my effort. You may have to change your phone number, or you may just have to block their number. You may have to delete their information. You may have to get rid of their email, their Facebook page off your page. You have to unfriend them. People who you have in common, you may not be able to associate with for right now. Cleaning out your closet. Now, here's where it gets crazy. And I know when my friend, when she hears this, because we had this conversation, because it's this serious. Physically cleaning out your closet. You know those shoes you used to wear with the little mini skirt to get things going? You have to throw it out. You know that perfume or that cologne you used to wear? You're going to have to throw it out. You know the pictures you took together, or pictures of him or pictures of her, the music, the CDs, the DVDs, throw them out. Why? Because you are breaking soul ties. And remember we talked about memories? That's the easiest way for them to get back in is through memory. You play that song that you used to play when y'all used to be in the cut. Guess what? Your body remembers. It's like a tape recorder. It remembers those things. So then it starts longing for that touch that he used to get. Get rid of it. Yeah, it's extreme, but until you're ready and until God tells you so, you're going to have to get rid of those things. Throw them out. Burn them up. And I don't mean give them to somebody else. If that spirit is alive in you, it gets into your things. It gets into your clothing. It gets into your perfume. Trust me, I know what I'm saying. And I'm going to be very honest for 2 seconds, no, for a few minutes. I remember when I was caught up in this spirit those years ago, when I thought it was all about me. And remember I told you the guy I was with, and it was about my anointing. Well, there was a certain fragrance that I would wear. And when I wore that fragrance, trust me, that meant Andrea was on the prowl, and it was time to get down with the get down. And I knew he couldn't resist that scent. I knew it. I was confident because that spirit was on me. That seductive spirit, it wasn't just him being a soul tie, me too. And I remember that I would wear that, and instantly I would be on 10. Let me just say it like that because I don't want to get too, because I'm not trying to hurt anybody. But I used to be instantly on 10 when I smelled it. It was like, yes. Well, guess what? A prophetess told me years later to throw it out. Now, I had gone into ministry at this point. I wasn't doing those things anymore. I wasn't even thinking about it. But I still had that same perfume. But it was just sitting in my closet. And I remember she knew nothing about my life, but she said, I keep seeing your closet, and I need to tell you something. Throw out those perfumes, throw out those CDs, throw out that underwear, throw out those shoes, throw out those dresses, throw out that lingerie, throw it all out. And I was like, what? Is she crazy? She don't know me. She said, those are the tools you used to seduce. Well, you're not there anymore, but why do you still have them in your closet? And I never thought about it. But when I went to go throw them out, as I was picking up items, I flashed back to what I was doing at those times. And I instantly went back to who I was. I was like, wait, I remember when, oh, yeah, And I said, hold up, wait a minute. I'm a minister. I'm ministering God's word. Oh, no, I can't go back into, no, they got to go. But I could not give them to somebody else because that spirit was on those things. So just like that spirit got into me when I would see it or touch it or smell it, if I gave it to somebody else, that spirit would be on them too. Be very careful when you go out to these places and you buy secondhand things. See, my daughter tried to say I'm a snob. I'm not a snob, but I'm very careful what I bring into my home, especially if it belongs to someone else. You don't know those spirits that are on those things. And it's that serious. It's not a joke. So for me, I would rather burn them up, throw them out so they can never be used again. And you have to be that serious. It could be something as little as a Valentine's Day candy, a Valentine's Day card. It could be pictures that you took of him or pictures you took of her or pictures of you together, or if you went on some vacation or some retreat together. Those things have to go. You have to carefully look around and see what you have. And you may have to get rid of some smells for right now. They may be able to come back in later, but it's important that you clean out your closet now. And once you do all these things, the most important thing for you to do is to guard your heart. It's so easy to get drawn back in when something is familiar to you. It doesn't have to be the same person. That's why we're talking about spirits in this soul tie, because the person, yeah, you're attracted to, but it's that spirit within them. And spirits travel. Spirits transfer. So that same spirit that might have been in Bob that you felt so attracted to may also be in Eddie. And even though you and Bob are through and you've done all these steps and you canceled it out and you're good to go, you run into Eddie. And you find yourself caught up in another soul tie. You've got to recognize these spirits, and the way for you to do that is to guard your heart. You also got to guard all the orifices that can receive, your ears, your nose, your eyes. Be very careful. That spirit is very strong, but thank goodness that we have weapons of warfare, that we have the whole armor of God that we can cover ourselves in. But there's some practical things you need to do as well. Because if they're not coming at you through the spirit and they're coming at you emotionally or they're coming at you physically, you've got to be prepared for that. I laugh because my pastor is like, there's sometimes you just got to run. You ain't got time to pray. And that's practical. If you can't handle it, you standing there saying a 15-minute prayer, you find yourself caught up laying in bed with Shosho. I don't know, I'm just making up names. Couldn't think of a good one. You sitting there praying and, oh, Lord, please don't let this happen and this happening. No, run. Get out of there. Guard your heart. And be very, very observant. Watch as well as pray. Keep your eyes open, not just your physical eyes, but your spiritual eyes as well. Your emotional eyes, your mental eyes, all those, it's all in the spirit. If a person looks like they're up to no good, they very well may be up to no good. This is powerful, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much we could talk about in concern to soul ties, but you've got to recognize them. If you're blinded, you'll be caught up. Unfortunately, there are people that I know right now that are caught up, and they don't even know it. And I almost wish I could, have a sign that says, soul tie, wake up, wake up. Seductive spirit, controlling spirit, distracting spirit, wake up. It wouldn't do any good. It would, if I were to write that on a sign, to them they would see words and gibberish. That's how that spirit is so strong. It blinds you. So it's good to have people around you who care about you that can see what they see and heed them and stay prayed up, especially in today's day and age where God is calling his kingdom to get in line. There are people who are trying to throw you off your purpose, and they will use these tactics to do it. I thank you so much for listening today. I am so grateful for you sharing this time with me, the premiere of Moments Chatting with Andrea. I'm excited. I can't wait for next week when Kimberly Rice will be on and we'll be talking about abstinence. And we're going to open up the phone lines next week and let people share. I talked a lot tonight. I apologize. And now we're winding down to the last minute of the show. But tune in next week at 7 o'clock. Kimberly Rice is our guest, and we're going to be talking about abstinence and her ministry that she just spearheaded, I believe it was this week or last week. And I'm just excited to hear what she's going to share with us. It's going to be good. Because abstinence is definitely one of the keys to help circumvent, stop, and prevent soul ties. So tune in next week as we have more moments chatting with Andrea. I appreciate you all so much. Have a great evening tonight, and we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel.
Thank you for tuning in to Faith in Me Ministries. On behalf of the entire staff, we thank you for your support. Please join us each and every Wednesday morning for the 8 on 8 prayer call. That's each Wednesday at 8 a.m. You can join us by dialing 805-399-1000. Enter in the access code 465-279#. Join us every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. for Moments, Chatting with Andrea. You can listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/faithinme or by calling 347 857-4339. And don't forget to tune in each and every Saturday morning for Talk the Talk Radio at 8 a.m. Dial in 347-857-4339, or you can listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/faithinme. Thank you so much for your support.